Hey, what's up, Canada and beyond? It is Monday, June 3rd. Do you know where all the lunatics are? um, Welcome back, everybody. I'm going to try and get things down to a little bit more of an organized, consistent chaos around here at What's Up Canada. So, 6 o'clock Central, so 7 Eastern, 5 Mountain, 4 Pacific. We're going to get on here and try and sort something out of the nonsense for everybody. So, welcome back, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, grannies and gators, and all of the above. Please give this a like, a subscribe, and a share, folks. We're going to get into a little bit of what's going on here in just a few minutes for the insanity, the censorship. It's taking itself to a whole new level. This isn't just today or any particular story or anything like that, but I've been seeing an escalation over the last week. People's tech is not working almost anywhere. It's very difficult to get a stream or a video. If this is what you do, it's getting more and more challenging by the day. I'm seeing that this is not just affecting uh, Facebook. Initially, that's where I first started to notice it, but it is affecting X and the other platforms as well. Tonight, they're still not letting me stream to What's Up Canada on Facebook. It says I'm allowed to stream to my personal timeline. It's telling me that I'm streaming to YouTube, but at the same time, it's showing me that I've only got 4 viewers that are watching here tonight. So I don't know what's to believe at this point anymore. The numbers, they just don't add up, or we're just not getting out to anybody, and they're making me think that they are. I don't know which way it is, but it's getting to be more ominous. This is some stuff coming into 2024. I think most of us were probably expecting. If you're wherever you're following from, throw a comment in the chat so that I know that there's at least somebody out there on some of the platforms we're streaming to. My Facebook personal page, to YouTube, X, Instagram, Rumble, Wimkin, and LGM, and What's Up Canada. So um, the old standbys, I guess the Silicon Valley giants are they're worried about what's coming this year. Um, hey, yeah, late notification. Uh, I'm somehow not surprised. That's why I'm gonna try and get into doing this so that you guys know 6 o'clock Central. Come find us somewhere. Rumble's still sending out notifications. Excellent, excellent. Good to know. The show went up this afternoon, or late morning or early afternoon. So, some folks should have got notified. But yeah, getting back to what I was talking about, coming into this year, 2024, it's a big election year in the US. In fact, in almost half of the planet, the uh, quote unquote democracies of the world are supposedly electing new leaders. And we'll touch on some of that here tonight, and we'll get to the censorship stuff. But well, that's good. Starting to see a few people come in. It's probably late notifications. Um, but yeah, make sure double check that you guys are subscribed and that your notifications are turned on. They are notorious, and part of that's probably my fault because if you're not uh, bang on consistent every single day, same time, same place, they think you're not interested, so they stop telling people that I'm doing stuff, and they think that you're probably not going to care. It's falling by the wayside, so they'll just remove your notifications because it's not a priority. um, so Brenda, if you're on Rumble, it should be there just below the title. There should be a comment bar. You guys should see a thumbs up. I can Let's see if I can pull this up so people can see what this what it actually looks like on Rumble, and it was actually mentioned to me that maybe I should
pull this up so
do a
people can
tutorial on
see
exactly
what this
how and
what it
where to
actually looks like
find
on Rumble,
this
and
on
some
it
other
was actually
platforms.
mentioned to me
So
that maybe I
this
should
is what it looks like on
do a
Rumble. You have to
tutorial
have
on
exactly
exactly
this
how and
what
where
it
to
actually looks
find.
like
I'm
on
not sure
Rumble,
how
and
that works.
it
Was
was
actually
platforms, I
mentioned to
believe.
me that
So
maybe I
this
should
is what it looks like on
do a
Rumble. You have to
tutorial
have
on
exactly
exactly
this
how and
like
where
that
to
in there now.
find.
But
But you can see just below the title, there's a thumbs up and a thumbs down. Comments. These comments they actually stay permanently
but you
on
can
the
see
video feed. So just below the title, there's a live stream comment now. Shows over the comments disappear basically as soon as you shows over when you close your browser. They'll stay there as long as the browser is open, but the real time live comments echo, and that's because I host this on a stream here on too. So we'll get this out of here right after these. I'm not sure why you're not seeing a share, but it should be right beside the comments. Yeah, I'll get some tutorials done up or something to help folks get sorted out a little bit more. Wimkin is another one where you can chat while you're watching. You have to have an account there as well. That's basically Facebook replacement. It's got all the bells and whistles that Facebook does. Jason, the owner creator, he's one of us. Yeah, you're probably hearing it twice because I was bringing up a video that I was streaming onto the stream. So hopefully that should stop. There's a bit of a time delay, so I'm getting your comments. Uh, and there might be just more technical difficulties coming down the pipe with the shenanigans they're playing. It's really getting to be a challenge to get something put together and do what we do, make make sense out of the noise. So I'm going to get to some of the Rumble is it's the best of what's left. To date, they have only removed one of my videos to date, and I'm definitely took note of the likely reasons as to why. I think that they still fear the Teamsters unions and some of those organizations because they don't play fair and don't play by the rules. So it's a shoot match. This is why whatsupcanada.org and lgm.news, that's where we're building the news platforms for tomorrow. And there's some other stuff that's people are doing as well. So it's one of the things I preach about, whether it's me or somebody else. The independent journalism, the people that fight in that arena are our best, strongest weapon against the propaganda and media mercenaries that are out there. I know it's hard to trust and invest in anybody that is, news or media. But at the end of the day, we have to use discernment in who and what we're listening to and observing, but recognizing that if we don't have an independent media that is willing to or capable of calling out both sides, we will never have an opportunity at democracy and free speech. If both sides use the same tools of cancel culture, agree with me or else, then we have a problem. So seek out the independents that dare to challenge the status quo on all sides and help them, support them. They need it a lot more than a lot of the entertainers that are out there, and there's an awful lot of entertainers out there. So if you want or not, if it's something that you can do, that's where the day-to-day help is most appreciated. You can tell the ones that are genuine. They're not building a business model. They're not taking fancy holidays and trips and those kinds of things because they can't. They're too busy trying to get as much information out for free as they can. And they're typically investing everything that they've got personally and sacrificing all of that to do so. So there's all kinds of activist causes. There will never be an end to the activist causes, but there will be an end to independent media if we don't recognize them as doing something different than just activism and get on board with them as well. So now, without further ado and enough of my babbling, we're going to start with a little bit of a clown world story tonight. Balloon wars, yeah, it's a real thing, and I'm not talking about weather spy balloons in Canada. No, we've literally got balloon wars happening between North and South Korea, and it's been kind of escalating. So the story is, getting to the point where it's infringing and escalating the narrative between North and South Korea in a hostile fashion. And what started out as South Korea started sending propaganda flyers, pamphlets, USB sticks, even food like rice and money over uh, into North Korea via these hot air balloons and small balloons. North Korea was upset by this and has retaliated with what they said is going to be every time they see a balloon, they're going to retaliate with 3 times as many. So that this last instance was apparently six to 700 balloons that were full of garbage, refuse, cigarette butts, feces, all kinds of the nastiness that they could find to ship over to South Korea. So now they've kind of reached a stalemate on this, but have um, it's kind of turning their discussions about peace sour. So there's definitely some escalation in tensions between North and South Korea. But the interesting part of this is the UN body is getting involved. They're listening to this, they're watching this, and they're shaking their heads because this to them is even a clown show, and they're not breaking any UN protocols. They're all screaming abuse and sanctions and all of those things. But yeah, no, it's just turning into a greater clown show, and we're gonna see a whole bunch of clown shows here in some of this little whirlwind tour of some of the news highlights. And some of this is going to be one and done, guys, but some of this is stuff that we're following and we'll be digging into a little bit more and deeper again. So the next story, so there's going to be a bunch of them tonight, might be a little bit of a shorter show. We're going to kind of go through the Coles notes of each one's. Kind of point out the shenanigans and the nonsense within. And as usual, I will publish a Substack with all of the links for you guys that you guys can go and dig a little bit deeper and pull on some more threads. There's always things that come to me after doing shows like that, and I put it out there. People go, they dive in a little bit more, and they go, "Oh, wait a minute, I got a piece of this puzzle," and the feedback and the communication, these are the things that open the Overton window. And that's something that you're going to hear me talking about a little bit more coming right up in a couple of the next stories. So that's what's going on for the clown show in the mid east, not quite far east, that is escalating into further tensions. And this is really just nothing more than poking at U.S. allies. There's a situation developing, and we'll dig into a little bit of that a little bit further into the program here. But this is what it amounts to: is the cops can't touch him, and they're poking and being bullies and making life annoying for U.S. allies. So that's the point and purpose of that exercise. Now, the next story that I'm going to bring up here isn't really a story in itself, but it's a page on the Government of Canada website that I think people should be aware of and kind of be tracking and watching, because this is where our government broadcasts their manufactured destabilization, destruction, that they see coming. And again, this is all regurgitated stuff that comes from Geneva through the UN, WEF, Fourth Reich channels that they're regurgitating. These are the danger signs and the disruptions that are coming on the horizon. So, um, I'm not going to get into this one in depth tonight, guys, but there is a ton of stuff in here. This is basically the how do we analogy to use for this would be uh, the editor's column for the Geneva Gang. This is where they're going to tell us what to be afraid of next. This is a page for that. So when you listen to it or you read it, it kind of reads exactly like the gobbledygook of the World Economic Forum. Exactly that. In recent years, the world has experienced significant disruptions. The COVID-19 pandemic, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the Israel Hamas conflict, extreme climate disasters, the surging cost of living, and global supply chain interruptions. We're going to touch on a few of those things in just a minute. Predicting the next big upheaval may not be possible, but it is crucial to explore possible disruptions and anticipate potential future scenarios. Doesn't that sound a little bit like the premise behind the pandemic preparedness treaty? Wash, rinse, repeat, same bullshit crap from the same places. It's like they copy and paste this stuff almost. So I'm going to start to pull this document apart, and piece by piece, there's a download file, a PDF file, but I encourage people to know your enemy. And in this case, the government of Canada literally is our enemy. And this is their playbook. This is what they're releasing on the playbook. And we watched the years and years uh, fiction series, or finished the watch party this past weekend, and at the climax where they're kind of going through 2025 to 2030, it's like they were telling us, and here they are again telling us, and we're having trouble convincing people. Well, I think part of the challenge is that it shouldn't be us convincing them. It should be somebody that is recognized and understands, or is providing the information. So this is kind of why I do what I do. I am never the expert in anything, but boy, do I bring on a whole bunch of people as often as I can that absolutely are the experts in whatever field of discussion that is relevant within the Overton window. And this is something that I'm discovering here is, the difference between conspiracy theory and conspiracy fact. 3 days to 2 weeks now. Well, it wasn't always that way. Mr. Jones and several others, they've been screaming for things for decades before they started to present themselves in reality. So the Overton window has been speeding up as the evidence of all of the dismissed conspiracy theories start to prove themselves true. Um, and so we're going to kind of lead a path through the clown world petting zoo, to touch on a few of the other conspiracies becoming fact. Um, this one here irritated me quite a lot today. I'm going to say this kind of triggered me when I read through what they're planning here. More invasion, another excuse to give people that would otherwise not be qualified, not be allowed, would not be coming to Canada now under the premise of caregivers. They're going to bring these people in. Language requirements are out the window. Other quotas are out the window. But they're going to tell us that we need these new caregivers. Our health and wellness systems are collapsing without the influx of foreign healthcare workers, and care, this should outrage us all. Again, how many people were forced out of, careers that they love, genuinely helping and serving humanity and people and doing no harm, and that illusion has been absolutely destroyed, and these guys are hell bent on continuing to replace old stock Canadians in the jobs that matter. These people have no connection, no investment. It's anybody that they're basically giving care to, it's because they're paid to do so, and have no emotional investment or societal investment in them. And I mean, what could go wrong, right? Like, what could go wrong? Um, and this population replacement conspiracy that can no longer be taken as a theory any longer. I'm gonna bring up this story that came across the wire. I think it was today, I do believe. But Greater Sudbury's population jumped the largest on record. Interesting. In this particular article, it is they're only speaking to on record for Sudbury. But in 2019, I interviewed a gentleman who was blowing the whistle on land grab allegations in Sudbury, where the council and some CRA officials and some local lawyers were all colluding to provide the clear runway, shall we say, for the migrant pilot program in Sudbury, just while they were realizing that basically the whole reason had been sold out to put in some uranium or lithium mines in Sudbury. So they've been very covertly under the ground, been replacing the population of Sudbury and using land grabs and the same gobbledygook climate crap scam to drive the citizens, the people out of their communities, out of their natural communities and their environments, to replace them with unskilled foreign migrant labor. This is the pattern. If you look at the initially when it was announced, I think there was 14 cities for the pilot migrant program. Every one of those cities had experienced the same rash of mineral and industrial mines that had either been shut down, forced out of business, sold, or just boarded up. I do not believe or by coincidence that all of these cities that have had these mining disruptions in their local economies till the population was forced out are now getting replacement populations and great big giant mineral and resource projects, right? Like, again, what could go wrong? Yeah, just doesn't add up, right? So on that note, more to the controllers of the controllers, and this is going to tie in a little bit more to a couple of the other stories that are coming up and connecting to this. I keep telling people or telling new information or talking about this ESG DEI agenda that has literally captured the entire economic um, machines of our nations, and this is why the pandemic measures were necessary to crush the middle class, because the ESG goblins, DEI, Stasi, from Switzerland, from Geneva, they literally control all of the major infrastructure for business, production, manufacturing, and shipping they've managed to trap them and force them into submission to only working and investing in approved projects that are ESG friendly. So what it boils down to is absolute extortion. They've got the money, and if you don't comply and dump the businesses that do not comply to the alphabet soup Stasi communist public-private partnership agenda, will force you out of business. So this is the ESG Geneva Davos Switzerland mafia that is pulling the strings on this, and they don't care about the societies or the nations that they're destroying. All they are after is ultimately controlling the entire infrastructure and industry, so that every mortal left standing is doing business how they determine. And if you don't live up to their standards, you will not be tolerated. You will not be allowed to exist. And this brings me up to this article from today from CTV, talking about wittingly taking part in foreign interference. Now, this was kind of uh, crafted to be a bit of a hit piece. And oh, we didn't know. But ultimately, what it boils down to is they've all been caught being useful idiots. And instead of doing something about it when they got busted, they went along with it. So now they are witting. They are knowing useful idiots. That whole they knew and they did it anyway. Well, that's where we are at. And at this point, I think it's absolutely absurd and hypocritical that when we talk about foreign interference in Canada, in our elections, in our industry, in our economy, it's not only China, guys. Everybody's pointing the big bad finger at China and Russia and India for interfering in Canada's business, when the fact of the matter is that's the pot calling the kettle black. That is literally the World Economic Forum, Fourth Reich, Stasi organizations, this global mafia that is pointing the finger at everybody else, so that nobody looks at them and says, "Wait a minute, Switzerland, Davos, those aren't really in Canada either. You wouldn't you call that foreign interference?" Because at the end of the day, every single one of the 300 and however many odd useful idiots there are is signed up and is a either witting or unwitting useful idiot for some foreign body and lobbyist group. And guys, I've got one that I'm putting together that is going to blow your freaking minds about foreign interference in Canadian organizations. Um, these private members associations that people are starting to figure out on how to evade government control and monitoring and rules and the law of the land, all of those things. We're just figuring it out. The bad guys have been onto that for a very long time, and there's a special one that I'm going to tell you about that all the big fancy pants are signed into, which literally they have created this private members association on behalf of another nation with a constitution of their own as they work in the Parliament of Canada. Conflict of interest much? Foreign influence much? Foreign interference much? Guys, we have got a way, way, way bigger problem, I think, than anybody is actually aware of. And this is why they are so afraid of people like me. And because we're already on to Bill C-63, we've kind of forgotten about Bill C-11, and now it's one thing when we're talking about it, fighting it, they're passing it. Well, now we're, it seems, at the implementation stage of the Online Streaming Act. So all of the Orwellian dystopian censorship that they talked about that went through with Bill C-11, we're now going to start seeing it real time as they implement it. And I suspect that this, guys, is the base root cause of the interferences and the technical difficulties that everybody seems to be experiencing across all of the streaming platforms, because there's only a handful of streaming tools that we use for all of the platforms. So if they control the streamers through their streaming tools and don't allow them to interface with the platforms, they've got us right where they want us, in control of what we're seeing and hearing coming into elections, and basically a shitstorm of scandal that is beyond them evading and avoiding. So we're getting into the nutcracker time, folks, and they are going to be cracking down on those like us here that they call the nuts. So this brings up another clown. Another clown. We want, talking about these guys that are so afraid of the truth, that are the clowns that are out there. We're going to bring up this one and show you guys what this clown sounds and looks like. So here we go.
We just heard this point about untrustworthy people, and we talked about things in the United States like,
I'll start that again.
We just heard this point about untrustworthy people, and we talked about things in the United States like, checks and balances, which aren't written anywhere but are customs. And one man, Donald Trump, literally came in and just took that all away. But when I see this, when I look at this, more globally regarding democracy, I also say to myself, when was this great time that everybody got along so well, and things were going so great? I mean, I think I think that we really have to be careful here in this nostalgia for a time past, because a lot of the reactions we're seeing in society are actually reactions to positive things, like like equality for women, and greater diversity, which come with backlash.
So that, ladies and gentlemen, is Alex Soros, the George Soros protege, taking over all of the Tides Foundation and his institution, and funding all of the alphabet oppressors, the alphabet mafia, the color revolutions, the war in Ukraine. Daddy George basically funded and started the war in Ukraine. That family, as you can tell, genetically, their apples seem to have fallen right beside Justin Trudeau. I can only wonder if he's wearing similar socks. So the point of me sharing that one there is, this is how mortified that was in Davos. They are absolutely mortified of us, and this distrust of anybody being allowed to speak has reached such an epic level of paranoia, because and they want to blame it all on Trump. And this is the absurd part of it. They are the ones that cannot function without programming. You listen to him stutter and stammer there, like like he had Tourette's or something. Like it's just absurd. These are the individuals that are running the world only because they have money, but these are the clowns that are running the world, and they can't even usher a simple sentence except for saying, "I need my diaper changed," because we can't shut Trump up. So the interference that is going on, I mean, everybody knows what's going on in the United States. The whole world knows what's going on in the United States. And unfortunately for Americans, the whole world knows what's going on in the United States. That is your guys' biggest danger right now, and ultimately the rest of the world too, because America is not looking like it can look after itself, let alone take care of anything else. And this is how we end up with another basically Joe Biden, Justin Trudeau, Jacinda Ardern replacement president in Mexico. And I don't really follow Paulie St. George, but I also do find it difficult to believe that this happened without interference. How does that happen in a conservative country like Mexico? This is just absolutely beyond me on how you know, and I always, whenever I hearing these kinds of things, and this is all only happening in our in our continent, basically. This concentration, it's like they're retracting, they're being kicked out of Africa, they're being kicked out of everywhere else. So it's retreat, regroup, and re-attack. Um, it's it defies logic, right? What are they after, right? They don't they're not it still comes down to the world control. And they are so heavily invested, and I think the evidence of that is actually right here in Canada. And it has to do with this story. Um, this is about Constable Helen Grew, and the alleged misconduct, um, because she used her superior, highly accredited, highly recognized, highly rewarded expertise to expose what these guys, these this cabal, this World Economic Forum, Fourth Reich, is all about. And this comes back down again, and I'm going to tie all of these stories in as we go in here. But this is about the scam of the scamdemic, the fraud, the greatest fraud ever perpetrated on an unsuspecting society in the history of our planet, that has stacked up more bodies than every former dictator in recorded history. You can add Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot, Hitler, all of them, all of the bodies that these people murdered because of their agenda doesn't even come close to what this medical uh, assault on humanity itself has done, and they are still doing. And this lady has been brave enough to stand up and defend the babies and the unborn and say this is wrong, and the evidence says that this is wrong, and they are really trying to destroy her. So this is one of those pivotal cases in not just in Canada, but literally in world history. I see a comment over in one of the other streams that Fauci is getting chewed up today. Absolutely. The jig is up. This is an American bioweapons event. Actually, I'm going to pull up something that I had here that relates to that comment specifically. Here we go. The fall of Dr. Fauci. Um, Officially exposed as U.S. government project, a virus engineered by U.S. scientists using a biolab in China and Canada and America to do gain of function and develop not just COVID, but a full spectrum, everything under the alphabet. These guys have been developing gain of function stuff for, including things like monkeypoxes and bird flus and all of these things. None of this is natural events, guys. None of it. It's all bioweapons programmed, funded illegally and illicitly, immorally and unethically through select people that think that they are above the law. Anthony Fauci being one of them. Um, and he says it there too in this post. The biggest crime against humanity has killed more victims than the Nazi Holocaust against Jews and everybody else. This is the biggest murder spree, psychopaths, serial murders in history, and there is a whole bunch of useful idiots that enabled it, facilitated it, knew about it, and would did it anyway, or are now trying to get out from underneath of it. They're trying to get away with it. And this is why this censorship, the abuse, why the Helen Grews of the world must be silenced. Um, and not just the Helen Grews. Um, Dennis Rancourt, people, this is another brave, unbelievably brave individual who, after years of fighting for the evidence and the knowledge and to be recognized and to continuously be dismissed, his evidence has been dismissed through more judicial notices in these kangaroo courts over the last couple of years that they are using to railroad Canadians for the crimes that they committed, thinking that we are dumb, stupid, unmotivated, and we'll just roll over and die for them. But so this post by a couple of days ago by Dr. Dennis Rancourt, who spent uh, I think it was 3 days basically being interrogated by experts on, and has finally been recognized as a qualified expert to speak to the abuses. And it's critically important that we get official recognition. We have to get through the propaganda and the censorship to make sure that these voices like Mr. Rancourt's get out, because they're continuing to silence us. Um, it's guys like Mr. Rancourt that are able to stand long enough to do the chewing on the people like Fauci, and Canada needs to follow suit. We're seeing, cases that affect this. And still to this day, the current procedures, they are still jabbing people. They are still selling these chemical concoctions to people. They are still terrorizing Canadians, telling them you got to get your jab, and we are still fighting for the truth to be recognized. And so this brings up Chris Erickson, who's been on our program. She deserves the same kind of grilling that Dr. Fauci is receiving today. It's going to be up to us to make sure that the world knows that Fauci's been caught, because the legacy media won't say a damn thing about it. They won't let enough of Canadians know so that we can get out there demanding that TAM go through the same expose and exposure and be held to account. And this is where she's never faced any scrutiny for her handling control of Health Canada. Did anybody vote for her? Did anybody vote for Theresa Tam to control Canada? We already know she's a product of the University of Wuhan Biolab. She's still getting paid from them. Foreign interference much? No wonder they are burying the Winnipeg lab and everything that happened there. What and Chris shouldn't be the only one demanding an answer to what is her involvement with the Winnipeg lab and the gain of function research that they arrested those two scientists for, and arrested all of their students for as well. Who I think the two scientists are back working at the lab in Wuhan, and and how is it that Michelle Rempel's name is on the patents for the ventilator machines, and she worked in the Winnipeg Biolab for 14 years, and the only question that she had of the government for 3 years was, why didn't Trudeau get us enough jabs? That's the only thing that she cared about. She felt we were, or she portrayed as, I think, one of the most illustrious actresses in Ottawa, that getting us the jobs was the appropriate thing. She never had a single question about the efficacy, the safety of this mass crime perpetrated um, on Canadians um, everywhere. And now we're in a situation where I hope this works, guys, but I'm going to try this. I may lose for those of you that are watching on Instagram, if I lose you there, forgive me. I'm sorry. Technical crashing here, but I have this video that it's only 40 seconds long. So if I have to mute something here, bear with me, guys. But it's important to hear what Theresa Tam is telling the World Health Organization this week.
In critical health services, Canada urges all member states to support WHO's critical health emergencies work.
Refresh that real quick.
Health services. Canada urges all member states to support WHO's critical health emergencies work. A strong WHO must also be inclusive, reflecting the entire global community. This means supporting Taiwan's meaningful participation as an observer at the World Health Assembly. This week, we will collectively decide on next steps on both the pandemic agreement and on the IHR amendment and negotiations. Canada remains committed to continuing to work together to prevent and minimize the devastating consequences of future global health emergencies and pandemics, and to further advancing health equity for all. A meaningful pandemic agreement is consensus-based and one that member states can sign, ratify, and implement. Thank you very much.
So that's, yeah, we still haven't intercepted this unelected, confused, mentally unfit designate from Wuhan, China, from stopping our endorsement and support and adoption of this WHO bioweapons program that only ensures that Trudeau makes money for the rest of his days for every concoction that they concoct, for every bioweapon freak show Frankenstein bug that they have dreamt up or wanted to create. That's the plan. That's the pharma economy moving forward. That's what the WHO pandemic treaty is all about. This is why they are now, because Africa nations wouldn't play. They're finally going to say, okay, Africa, you can start having biojab weapons factories too. So the next time that you're want to send balloons over the neighboring border with a bioweapon bug, you've got something that this is what they're escalating to. This is the next military industrial complex, is bioweapons and jabs, biowarfare. Every continent, every bad actor, the Cold War was 50 years of nuclear terrorism. Now, guys, we are moving into the next gen of terrorism, and it is bioweapon terrorism, and every nation's going to have some. And this is what they're agreeing upon with the WHO pandemic preparedness treaty, and it's freak shows like that are leading the way, and it's freak shows like these ones that continue the connection and the money. They continue the financial harvest of Canadians, our resources, our life savings, our futures, our pensions, our great-grandchildren's futures, our very lives. These are the two liberal clowns that are over at the World Economic Forum Fourth Reich Lieutenant General's strategic planning session. Mark Carney and Francois Champagne are at the Bilderberg meetings. These are the guys that are making sure that they have kissed the ring of the Aga Khan, and I've sworn their allegiance to the Bilderberg agenda. So this guys is incredibly diabolical. How these guys continue to march along, and yet scream this week that there's an 800% increase in abuse of MPs. Well, gee, imagine that. I wonder why. How could that happen? Do you think that they could possibly get so disconnected from reality that we would have to feel like we must shout louder and louder and louder and still not be heard? And they want to play victim because we're upset. Um, and this comes to the basic denial of all of us, literally, in that, you know, we at the end of the day still kind of, you know, allow it to happen. At the end of the day, it still ultimately, belongs on us. And although they did that to us, they put us in that situation, and we're getting kind of down to the end of the wire here. There's probably still was a half a dozen that I wanted to cover tonight here, but that's good. And I've got some stuff to start off with tomorrow. And I'll leave off with this. Yes, it's our fault. We haven't done what was required of us, not just us in this current right here, right now in this generation, but for successive generations. And that has been abused and abused and abused and abused. And this is where we're at here and now, where one of the things that Michelle Smith, one of our great friends of this platform and community, we talk about it all the time, the tsunami of trauma. The entire population is responding, reacting, and acting and living day to day. Their day to day norm is a series of never ending trauma responses. It's just we move from dealing with one trauma to another, to the next, to the next, to the next, and almost nobody is unaffected. I would even disagree. It's interesting that CBC has brought this up because this is something that we've been lobbying towards organizations and people that are using the words without understanding the meaning and the severity. And when the Overton window shifts and we move from, like earlier when I shared, the research that I'd done in Windsor in 2019, uncovering what is in discussion now, that's the shift of the Overton window in 2019. Couldn't talk about it. People didn't get it, didn't add up, didn't make sense. Conspiracy theory, don't have time for that. Whatever the case might be. Now the Overton window is shifted. 4 years later, almost 5 years later, we are having that discussion. There's other people that are having that discussion, and that is the Overton window that is shifting. So there's so many of the shows that you guys here in this community are years, in some cases, ahead of what other people know and understand. And this makes it that much more frustrating when we know, and we've known for a couple of years, why is it so hard for us to get through to others? Well, guys, that's part of the process, and that is the Overton window. And this is where I tell people our ears are our best weapon, because once you know enough and others are talking, you can hear where they are, where their Overton window is. And at that point, I encourage you to give them a little nugget that will lead them to safety. Don't try and explain it all to them, but give them a little nugget that will lead them down a path of self-discovery. And if they do that, they will never go back. And this is, I think, is so critical for us to understand. We need a much clearer separation between facts and emotions, between truth and news and reality, and entertainment and education. And it's such a cacophony out there that it's really difficult sometimes to tell the difference, as all of these things converge and mash into similar stories, similar things. And uh, the louder the discussion gets, the easier it is for the parasites and the predators to come in and prey on people's hope and desperation. And so this is why I think it's very, very important for us to take some time sometimes and not necessarily look at the headlines, but what's behind it, and so this is one of those stories and cases. But the point of this is that they're normalizing trauma, and the more trauma that they normalize, the easier it gets for them to say yes to 30-year-old people who can't get treatment for a disease that they deny existed, but they will approve her for euthanasia. This is why it's so critically important for us to understand here now, again, they are a government stuck on murder, and all 100% of the legacy media are nothing more than mercenaries. They are not media, they are not truth. They exist to facilitate the termination of society as we know it at the behest of the foreign infiltrators from faraway places like Geneva and Davos. And these suit and tie wearing Muppets are the clowns. And, we're not alone in having them in Canada. We just seem to have a slightly more difficult time in coming together on deciding how to deal with them. And there are ways to deal with them effectively that do not have to put us in jail. But it's time for us to start looking collectively at where our energy is going. And does it matter? Do our resources, our energy, our attention, our groups, our efforts, our investment, are they going to things that matter? So we need to start to differentiate and prioritize the dangers. The dangers. Danger Will Robinson. Some of these clowns are absolutely out to destroy us, and these are some of the front runners. These are just the cookie cutter cutouts, the replacements of the Trudeaus and the Chrystia Freelands, as those people fail upwards, and they will land themselves jobs at either the World Economic Forum or some cushy panel that they assemble. And to take a break from, kind of like they did with Naheed Nenshi. The Rockefellers give him a nice cushy desk job till there was an opportunity for him to come in and be a parasite in Alberta again and run for the NDP Socialist Party of Alberta. I'm not watching that, but I'm sure somebody out there will be. So it's been quite a roller coaster ride around the world this week, guys. Interesting stuff. Like I said, all of the links that I've used or referenced in this show here tonight will be included in the resources section of the Substack that I will publish. Like they get it out earlier in the morning. I'll try and get it together tonight. There's a Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, guys, and I'm here to try and make some sense of the noise. I'm going to be doing some stuff on debunking the narrative on the Ukraine conflict and what's going on there. It's not as it appears and seems, guys. So that's kind of my plan for tomorrow, but I will save a few of the stories that we had here tonight. And I will say thank you so very, very much for tuning in here tonight and for sharing and helping me get this out there. Like I said, we're going to get into a little bit more regular routine with this. And this is, if you feel compelled to help me, put a meal in my belly or solve some problems or try and keep doing what I'm doing, there are a couple of different ways you can help with that through Buy Me a Coffee, which is a great platform. We're helping others get set up there as well, or through an e-transfer at donate@whatsupcanada.org. So on that note, folks, I love you all, my fellow hostages. Stay Canadian, stay mighty, and check out one of our partners that I'm going to play out with here. I'd love to talk to you guys about something like that rather than just dismissing it. Bring your beefs and let's talk it out. I love to have challenging discussions. So tell me why you still support BlackRock with all of your consumables in your house. Just want to know. Inquiring minds wants to know. All right. I love you all. Bye for now.